Welcome to the 10 Minute Tuesday show. Time where we take 10 minutes out of your schedule to talk about a subject and learn something together. And today's subject is anxiety. And we all have this preconceived notion of anxiety. We feel it, we see it, but there's stressors in life that either push and pull, push on the outside, push on the inside, this dynamic of stress that is always evolving. But in the world of anxiety, it's kind of a created chaos, in essence, a self-created chaos. Because what happens with stress happens, and stress is natural. There's nothing wrong with stress. But like any foods, is when you eat those certain foods all the time, say, let's, for example, sugar. You eat sugar all the time, your blood soaks in, distributes all that glucose everywhere and stores it. And all of a sudden there's this stress to your body, and then your pancreas shuts down because of that stress, causing it so much anxiety because there's so many stress factors pushing that over its limit. And we all have warning signs. We can tell when stress gets too much, blood pressure shoots up, anxiety begins to creep in. But here's the deal with anxiety. We choose. It's a fantasy. I'm not negating the fact that it happens a lot, but we have created this monster. If we have panic attacks and anxiety attacks, we have created this because it didn't start up overnight. It started with something small, and we let it fester. In our mind, we created this fantasy of fear, more or less. That's all it is displaced fear. It's undealt with fear of any circumstances, any stress. Because stress happens. As I said, anxiety is going to try to pounce on that if we let it. And as with anything, what we eat is what we become. So if we've developed these stressors in our life and allowed to dwell on them and increase the anxiety of these elements, then we're going to have a harder time with someone that deals with stress differently and doesn't get into the hypothesis of, whoa, no, what could go wrong here? What is going wrong? And then start dreaming this fantasy in their mind, causing more stress, causing more anxiety, and a total fear shutdown. So, let's talk about anxiety in a biblical standpoint. How do we deal with the stressors that happen in our life? How do we deal with the turbulence that comes and not let it morph into something that is so much bigger that causes an actual meltdown? The Hebrew word has two kind of connotations when it deals with anxiety, is to melt or a wave, like a turbulence in the ocean, some kind of over-encompassing wave. So, with that being said, after looking into this, let's go to Peter. Perfect example. He says in 1 Peter 5:7, cast all your cares to him, for he cares for you. In the J.B. Phillips translation, I love this. It says, cast all the full weight of your anxieties because he makes you the first priority. He prioritizes you. Why? Because you're his child. If you believe in Yeshua, and if you model your life after Yeshua and walk in his ways, you are his first priority. Now, Peter wrote this. It's kind of funny if you look at it. Peter wrote this, and you look at, who is Peter? He was a fisherman. He was used to waves and turbulence in his life. He was used to navigating his ship on the Sea of Galilee that can get up to 12-foot seas. So 12-foot waves coming over the boat is not uncommon. But the fishermen and the sailors there, they know how to navigate the seas, when to stay in, when not to go out, when it's okay. Yes, we can cut through this. We've done this before. But there's this one time and instance in Matthew, if you look at the story, these seasoned fishermen, expert veteran fishermen, are caught in a situation and anxiety sits in. The waves of life come crashing in. The waves of life come hitting the boat. These massive waves start building. They start building. And they're trying to do their best. That's one thing that a lot of people will push off. It's like, well, I'm just going to cast my cares. Well, these fishermen try to do their very best to prevent anything from happening. But they had come to the end of their rope when the stress was just too much and the ship was going to sink, because they knew the ship was going to sink. This is more than they've ever been able to deal with. And Jesus is sleeping on the boat. Jesus is with him. He's with them. And Peter has to cast his care to Yeshua. He goes, Jesus, we are about to die. This anxiety has gripped him. He's a seasoned veteran. He's familiar with the fear of the ocean, the fear of the waves, the fear of the 12-foot water coming over the boat. He's seen it. He's been in it. But this is just overwhelming. So he goes up to Jesus and says, Yeshua, I don't know what we can do. I'm casting my cares, my anxieties. It's on you. Please help me. I've done the very best that I can. Now I need you to do something. And Peter understood that when he was writing this, cast all your cares to me, for I make you first priority. Jesus gets up and walks out and says, peace, shalom, to the seas. We talked about shalom last week, to the seas. And it calmed down. And they said, who is this that the wind and the waves obey him? If you look into Isaiah 26:3, it says, keep them in perfect peace whose mind is set on them. Peter was full on anxiety attack. I don't know what to do. But he also knew the prophets, and he also knew the works of Yeshua. And he casted the full weight of his anxiety responsibility onto Yeshua. It's like, I've done everything I can. I've tried to silence my mind. I put everything into your hands. Remember that passage that pops up about, hey, guard your mind, protect everything that comes into your mind, make it subject to the power and the authority of Christ. Well, this is the same scenario. All these waves are coming in and they're going to sink the boat if something doesn't happen. But Peter casts all his care. Tishalah in the Hebrew means to send. It means like throwing a ball. Or like Peter's case, he's very familiar with casting a net in a direction. You don't just randomly cast. You know where the fish are and you cast that net. That's what Peter did. He had a direct connection. In Jeremiah 33:3 it says, call unto me, and I will answer you, and I will show you great and mighty things. Peter called unto Yeshua. He knew the prophets. He called unto the one who created the ocean, created the wind and the waves, and said, Yeshua, I do not know what to do. Help. And he rose and calmed the waves and showed the disciples great and mighty things. So when you're in the stress and the anxiety, call his name. Call out to Yeshua, and he will show you great and mighty things. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, keep a lookout, because these are going to be coming every week, every Tuesday. For the remainder of the year. That's a big promise, but that's what I want to do for you guys. I want to give the ability for you guys to learn and then me learn myself, because looking up topics, hearing what you guys want to talk about, learning what I know, seeing what you guys know, and comment below if you got questions, if you got comments, we can learn together. So much blessings.